Hi and welcome back to the podcast series after our small break. We're really pleased today to have a friend of mine, Aaron Davis, who is inspiration to many. He is in the top few auctioneers in the country, and I'm sure you'll enjoy both his first part and again the second part next week of our podcast series. He'll give you many hints on bidding at auctions, and over the next 2 weeks you'll hear some very good tips on purchasing, getting the right real estate agent, where to sell, we'll do a reno, and tips on life in general. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hi, I'm Mark Honeybone from Property Ventures, and welcome to our weekly podcast where we interview prominent members of the investment community along with other professionals in the New Zealand property market. This is a free service from Property Ventures so that you can keep current and learn from some of the best around New Zealand. To check us out, take a look at propertyventures.co.nz. We hope you enjoy today's podcast. So welcome all today. A professional auctioneer, wants to be the best in New Zealand, real estate agent, investor, just a damn good bloke. And also I'll throw in a barefoot water skier after seeing him on Facebook a while ago. Welcome Aaron Davis.
Thank you, Mark, and good to be on the line with you today, brother.
No worries. Good to have you too, Aaron. I've known Aaron for quite a few years down here in Blenheim, and you'll learn a bit about him as we go through. But Aaron, tell us a bit about who you are and what your history is before your auctioneering, which we'll get into shortly, and also maybe in that about the family business in Blenheim.
No problem, Mark. Well, look, I don't think anyone wants to hear too much about me, but fair to say I'm a 43-year-old rhino. I'm a failed athlete, but it did teach me a lot of discipline, which was invaluable with real estate. Look, I've made some big mistakes, but it's okay. I divorced, so I'm okay now. But I come out of that with 2 kids and basically got involved in franchising, so it taught me a lot about sales and relationships, and then bought into the family real estate business about 8 years ago down in Marlborough, where I had the pleasure of meeting you. So that was sort of my background, and then just fell in love with auctioneering, and here I am today, a professional auctioneer in Auckland.
Great work. Hey, can we ask you, when you say athlete, what was your love?
Oh, look, anything to do with the swimming pool, the ocean, biking, running. It was then a guy called Daniel Loader come along and kicked my tush at 14 years of age. So that sort of put pay to my sporting prowesses, but that's okay. All good fun.
Okay, so you never kick anyone in the guts, you see, and obviously Daniel Loader did it to you, so that was a bit of a shame.
Well, 4 years later, when you see that he's a world champion, it's okay, that's okay. Now at least I got beaten by someone good, so all good. Life building stuff.
Okay, and just briefly, the business in Blenheim, your father and brother own and run, I think, is it the Harcourts office down here?
Yeah, when I got involved in the business, Dad was looking to sort of semi-retire, so I'd sold a franchising business. I bought in. It was well established in the area. It was actually the first Harcourts franchise in New Zealand, and it was when I bought in. It was right in the middle of the recession, and the biggest learning I had from that whole experience was it's such a good time to grow market share and make money in a recession. So that was a real key learning for me. That was so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good point, and I've seen it going through the last downturn myself. There are massive opportunities when everyone's struggling to make the most of that. And just to validate that, I know when I started investing in a bigger way down here in Blenheim about, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, I think Harcourts had about 25% of the sales. I might be wrong here, you'll correct me, but
18. That's pretty close. 80% market share.
Was it how much?
18%.
18%, and I know as of 6 months or so ago, you're up to about 50%, I think it was. So on a couple of stats that I saw.
Yes, well, I'm Mark. I'm the classic A type, right? At the time, I was telling my brother, we're going to buy this and buy that, and he was very reserved for all the right reasons, and then all of a sudden, the market turned, and then we had this big war chest where we just went out and it was just a great learning. Put it down as more school fees.
Great work, yeah, absolute school fees. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll tell that one to my wife. She'll like that better than the usual. So,
Yeah.
excellent. So,
See.
and you moved to Auckland a couple of years ago for your love of auctioneering. So, tell me why auctioneering?
Well, look, at the time, what tends to happen with most auctioneers is seriously they're failed real estate agents. And so I just sort of looked at a few auctioneers and it looked like fun. I thought, mate, that's easy. The cut and the thrust sort of appealed to me, and there's a real competitive outlet in it as well. So I just sort of fell in love with it. And I think the appeal for the auctioneering is you never know what's going to happen. I've turned up to auctions where they've got absolutely no one. Classic Asian buyer walks off the street, pays $1 million.
Yep.
Other auctions where the agent's telling me they've got 10 bidders, you turn up and no one bids, and the owner's going, right, I want someone's head. So you tend to be the hero or the heroine. So you're just always on edge, and that appeals to me.
Absolutely. Okay, and just actually on that side of it, I guess, there might be some people listening who might be an Asian and might even be thinking of being an auctioneer themselves. You know, what's the quality someone needs to be an auctioneer? I know you had a history of public speaking and training that you did here.
You've got to be able to put up with rejection. Yeah, it's and you've got to be confident, obviously, public speaking, but all those are learnt skills. So it looks so easy. I think the key to auctioneering is usually when you're giving a presentation or a speech, you're in charge. Auctioneering stuff gets thrown at you, so it's so much harder than what it looked. I thought it would be a breeze, and it's been one of the biggest challenges I've ever taken on. So. But it's rewarding in the same sense. You don't make a fortune out of it, but I just love doing it, and I've never been happier. So
excellent.
It's a good fit for me.
And you can tell too. I love going to your auctions. They're a lot of fun, and you get everyone involved, mate. It's good. You can never sit in the corner and assume you're not going to get hassled.
Well, I know that everyone's sitting there going, "What's this twat going to say with the tie on?" So you just you're there to build confidence, rapport, and just, I say to people the time as an auctioneer, because they look at you as the competition. It's like, mate, it makes no difference to me. In 20 minutes, I get in my car and I'm off to the next one. So whether you buy it or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
It's the buyers that are the competition, not the auctioneer. But anyway, yeah.
Absolutely, that's good. Cool. In fact, on that point, do you have they changed your dress standards in Auckland? I know you're very famous around these ways of having one black shoe and one brown shoe, just to have a point of difference, not to be like everyone else. What's your dress standards up there at the moment?
Well, yeah, look, I had to conform, and it's one of the best things that I ever did for my business. But yes, I have to wear the suit and the tie and the same coloured shoes. I've had to conform. So that's just one of the minor sacrifices I've had to make, but I would certainly recommend it for anyone. As always, that point of difference. There's so much marketing noise out there with people saying, choose me, buy off me, sell. It's just, you've just got to find your point of difference, because, mate, I hate drinking with the herd. You got to swim up, you got to drink upstream of the herd. So, yep, I look, but I don't act normal.
Yep. All good. Yeah. No more comments on that. Hey, so let's get right into it here. Buying and selling at auctions. So tell us both sides of it. Most of our listeners here, they're investors. They're after a bargain, and you're at the other side of the fence. I guess you're trying to get the best price possible for the vendor. The other one's paying you. So enlighten us.
No problem. And I think, Mark, the main thing is yes, any auctioneer works for the seller, but invariably, quite often when I'm selling for sellers, it's more about the sales process and what it enables them to do with their lives. Yes, you get owners who hang on to miracle prices, and they'll always be in the marketplace. But I think a lot of the time they miss that quite often when people are there to sell at auction, they're selling because there's a death. They're selling because they want to go somewhere else. So they say the money's important, but what I notice in the negotiations and calling over 1,000 of auctions, I've lost count how many, it's more, the move is more important, and therein lies opportunities both ways. So look, I say to people, And I did have success as a real estate agent, so I feel I'm an authority on this side. If you're looking to sell, if you're a seller in the marketplace, there are 5 key points that you have to get around, otherwise don't go to auction. Number 1, you hire an agent on competency and competency alone. You don't hire an agent who offers to pay for advertising, because they're going to apply the pressure to you, because they're going to want you to sell on auction day to get their money back. All those classic cliches. If they offer you a discount on commission, fire them, because they're not the best negotiator in the room. So competency is number 1. People have to understand it's the process of auction, not the promise of a price.
Right.
I can statistically tell you, if people want to have a look at Aaron Davis NZ, they can have a look at the stats. I know that properties never, ever sell for reserve. Like, they just don't. 1 in 100 they sell for reserve, but it's the process, not the promise of a price. If someone's telling you they can get a price, then you would a little alarm bells would be going off in your head.
Right.
Understanding an agent's job in an auction process is to collect buyers. That's all that they do. So if you are selling through auction, that's your agent's job, not to find the miracle buyer.
And I guess if they find more and more buyers, they've done their job, and that will demand what the price will be at the end of the day, I guess.
That's it. But I see so many sellers, they're putting the screws on, pardon the French, but they're putting the pressure on the agent to find the miracle buyer. No, give them the permission to just collect buyers, and you will have a successful auction.
Yeah.
The auctioneer's job is to turn up and go, right, I've got, I had one last night in Mount Wellington, 10 bidders.
Right.
So of course it was going to fly. So number 4, the key to an auction campaign is you got to have the money shot. You got to have the one photo that obviously everyone looks online now, right? That's where it's all online, digital, the whole thing, right? So you got to have your money shot, and you got to have your story. Because what I find is buyers, investors, they're always going, well, what's the story in the selling? An extreme. If you ask me why the owner's selling, and I say, well, look, it's a deceased estate, 3 of them are from overseas, they're flying in, then as an investor, you go, beauty, it's selling, right?
Yeah.
It's the story. But what I find is a lot of sellers go wrong is they apply too much pressure to their agent to find the miracle buyer, and they don't let them be aggressive with the advertising script on the story, and hence no one turns up to bid, and it's just a train wreck.
Right. Okay, I suppose that story is pretty important right through from the agent telling the potential buyers for it right through to you, the auctioneer, at the auction. If there's some consistency with that story right through, they've got people there to start off with, and it's sort of reinsured on the night, I guess.
Absolutely. The story, it's got to be the truth.
Yep.
It's got to be believable. If I've bought a property 3 months ago and I've put a lick of paint through it and I'm trying to flip it 3 months later, that's a hard story to convey to the market, because otherwise you're telling lies. And with the new Real Estate Agents Act of 2008, the Auctioneers Act, like on and on and on, the story's got to be the truth, but you've just got to nail that down with your agent. But I have it all the time when I have emergency meetings with clients going, okay, we've got no interest. Why? Come and buy this lovely 4-bedroom house in a prime location that's been fully restored. Rah, 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 rah. The owner wants a miracle price. I'm not going to invest any time, any energy turning up to bid at your auction. Right. So if you haven't got those 2 down, go to the market with a price and crash and burn with your number out there.
Yeah.
But the key for me is emotion defies logic at an auction.
Yep.
So people logically turn up wanting, I want this. If you're an investor, you've got to create that environment with an auction, so then, emotion gets involved, and then you get your profit, you get your great price. That's simple.
Right, absolutely, yeah, cool.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Yeah, so, hire a good agent, stay at a price, have your story right, and then you'll have a really good auction.
Yeah, sounds good. And you're getting 10 last night, so 10 bidders turned up, were they? How many of them actually bid,
Yep,
for example?
it was a classic one. It was in Mount Wellington, Barrack Street. Probably a lot of
Yeah.
the
Yep.
location's going hot. It was 1950s weatherboard. It was just classic. There were every first home buyer was in the market, and he got $616,000 for a cross leased 2 bedroom weatherboard.
Two
Uh,
bedroom.
so it was a classic agents of auction where agents knew to stay at a price,
Yep. Yep.
um, and away you went. So if you were a buyer, probably not the place to buy, but if you're a seller, great.
Yeah, definitely. Great
Yeah.
work. Great work. So that was what's the number? Was that number 5? Was it the last one? The last point?
Oh, look,
Or went
cash
into other.
is an auctioneer.
Great work. Hey, just on that. So an auction's obviously not for every property out there. That's clear in some areas. I wouldn't recommend it at all, and others I definitely would. What's your take on that?
Well, yes, and I've been in with Blenheim and you in a market, Mark, where that's the case. I just say, look, it's the owner that you're auctioning, not the house, because anywhere, if it's a mortgagee auction, if it's a mortgagee sale, or if it's a deceased estate, it'd be criminal not to take it to auction. So as long as the owner understands the process and the agent's job is to collect buyers at a discounted price where owners want to steal the thing, then you cannot get the price wrong. That's the key. It's the only process when potentially you can get above market value. Otherwise, you go to the market with a price or any other, like people that do PBN, we call it piss buyers off knowing it. If the owner understands the process, go into a 3-week auction campaign. If cash is not there, you haven't done any damage to your price. And then you can go to the market with your price and not get it wrong, and you can get a premium if you can get competition again where emotion defies logic. Because you get people like you and I, we're all the same, aren't we? We're all little kids in big people's bodies. I turn up going, I'm not going to pay more than 400, and because I'm competitive, I end up paying 430. Now I'm stupid, but we're all the same. We don't like to lose quite often.
Yeah, interesting. That scenario you said there, auctions are for owners, not properties. That's something I certainly never thought of, and I'll challenge you a little bit there with I'm a fan of selling at auctions. I like selling there, but I think it's case by case situation, and I look at a market that's obviously not going so well, and there's not so many buyers around. I would normally go, it's not to do it. If you've got a different sort of property, a bit quirky, that's not the norm, there's not going to attract a whole lot of people. I would have normally said, yeah, maybe not. Maybe not go to auction. Let's put a price on it, or again that lovely thing PBN. But so your recommendation would be in every case, almost every case, go to auction first, see how it goes, and you've still got options afterwards.
Well,
That's your philosophy, I guess.
You're asking an auctioneer.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm one-eyed, but okay. Put it this way, because it's the owner understanding the process and the story behind why it's selling. I suppose is probably a better combination. If those two things are right, auction. If not, go with your price, but choose one or the other, because anything in between is just a cop-out. Because at the end of the day, PBN, tender, price on application, the buyer's still going to have to ask someone, how much do I have to pay? Now, whatever number comes out of someone's mouth, the owners are looking for, or in the circa of, you're saying to the owner, you're saying to the buyer, that's what you don't have to pay, and they're slicing and dicing your price. Now, if you quote it too high, you lose the buyer, and you got what Paddy shot at. I can statistically prove to you, and Mark, check out the stats that I've just put up in the last quarter, that reserves, QV, and what the agent tell you and what the buyers tell you feedback is in relation to the value of property have absolutely zero relevance to the selling price of a property.
Yeah.
in Auckland at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, that's like for example, um, relationship to reserve to the selling price, right?
Yep.
So I set reserves all the time, and people get so uptight about the reserve, it just has no relevance. Last quarter, out of 70 something auctions that I sold out west, I call all over auction, but I do these guys' stats for them. There was a property that sold $160,000 below the reserve price.
Okay.
Now there's one that sold 95,000 above the reserve price.
Okay, so it's the range.
That's the range. But all the buyers turn up and go, what do the owners want? What's the QV? It's like, what? Like, I had a property that sold 30 grand under rateable value. I had one that sold 368,000 above. It just has no relevance, but people get so caught up in it.
Yeah, I guess those chats with the vendors before the auction must be interesting at times. I suppose, and again, it's case by case. Every situation is completely different. You'll have some very stressful vendors, and you'll have some people they just want to get rid of it. They don't care.
Well, but no one, they want to sell, but they never tell you that, eh? They go, oh no, if I don't sell, I'll just rent it. Sure, yeah. I haven't heard that one before. Usually, when you find out the motivate, that's everyone's fallback position is I don't have to sell. Yeah. So I say to owners at the moment, look, you can. If I was talking to you, Mark, you can put down $2 million. I don't care. I can guarantee it's not going to sell for the reserve. By law, I have to have a reserve in writing, but put any number down you like. But we set our strategy around where the buyer feedback's coming from. So that's our job as an auctioneer to go, cool, that's our strategy with opening bid. And if we can vendor bid up to a level, that's where buyers are comfortable bidding. And so, again, talking about stats, the relationship from buyer feedback to selling price, right? So if you're sitting down if I'm sitting down selling you a house and the agent goes, oh, we've been getting buyer feedback around $500,000 for interest's sake, I know that statistically in the last quarter, 5% of the time we actually sold under that feedback. Once we sold 26% above that feedback, but on average, the buyers are 15.3% out on their feedback.
Okay, it's interesting.
So I know statistically that if the buyer feedback's $500,000, 15% on average, 75 grand. I know the market is somewhere in the 575 to 6.
Right.
Everyone's telling porkies, right?
Yeah, well, no one wants to put their best foot forward when they're just talking about prices. And that's one of the things I was going to go on to. I've challenged you from before with the PBN and the tenders and stuff. If people don't know the prices of the place, and one of the things, auctions, one of the first things, 90% of the people go and talk to the agent and go, so roughly what's it going to be? And you must have heard that probably more than 9 out of 10 times. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's what everyone is, but it comes down to the story, right? I put mortgagee across the sign. You're going, geez, this thing's selling. I put deceased estate, selling. You find out that they're divorcing, it's selling.
Yep. So
all I know is all the feedback, even what the agent tells you, whatever they tell you, because I've had agents all the time ring me up and go, hey, what did Great South Road sell for? Oh, I had one the other day. Can't say the number, obviously, but I've sold a lot down there. I said 395. He said, what? The agent told me it was in the 425s. I'm like, well, you're silly, because the agent never knows what the owner will do, right?
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure the owner was going to the agents, I won't sell $1 less than 450. But on the day, they said, Aaron, we want it sold. So once you understand that whole process, then it just comes down to the owner and the story.
Definitely, and that's one thing I'll comment on there, and I'll put a good word in for agents, registered agents, I guess. But and not only that, just the agents, as you just said, the agents often don't know where the vendor's thinking is, and just because they might have said, hey, there's an offer went in for 400,000 a week before, no one knows, including the agent, what's going on in the life of the vendor in the last week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and they might have had major things happen and they're willing to let it go now for 360, and people obviously they don't know that, and everyone blames the agent, but I mean, if you're a seller, do you always tell the agent the truth? Not all the time as far as price wise goes and the motivation.
Oh, it's all about motivation and the reason for selling, mate. I just sold a house in Covent Gardens that you know really well.
Yep.
You know, now that was bought for $700,000. It was sold for $495,000.
Wow. Okay.
I'm in the industry.
Just for listeners, that's a bit pretty exclusive wee subdivision here in Blenheim. Leaky home was it or?
No, but it had the stigma of a leaky home.
Oh, yep.
Because I'm on
The story again. The story.
Oh, I had to get all the building reports. I had it repainted. Like, it was tickety bill. It was Hebel. And look, I'm fine. But for me, it was, I wanted to move on from that experience. Now, I put that down to school fees. I sold it. It's a good story to tell. But look, so many times I think, Mark, people make mistakes in real estate too, where they never think that they should make a loss in property. I don't know why that is. I've made lots of wins. I've made lots of losses. And some of the best advice I can always give people is just, no decision is still a decision. Just move. Just, and I had to look back. I don't want to lose $205,000, but I'm happy that I've moved on.
Yeah, what's the cost of holding on to it too? So that's right. Great. Okay. Awesome. We'll move. We've sort of started going into investing from auctioneering, I guess. So, what's your idea of successful investing there, Aaron? And I know. Well, I might be speaking out of turn. I don't think most of the people we've interviewed on this podcast are seasoned investors. Probably more after the listeners here, they're after high yields and discount and what have you. But yeah, so tell us what your idea of successful investing is.
Well, I suppose one of the hardest things for me, Mark, has been involved in the industry and having personal experience with having the pleasure of working with you. When you're an agent and an auctioneer, investing in the market's actually quite hard because you're always, you're an agent, so all the disclosures and things that have to happen. So in some ways, you want to hire someone who's in the industry who gives the best opportunities to the clients. Like if I was a realtor and I'm trying to sell you investments, but I'm also investing at the same time, you would go, well, hang on, you're not giving me your best business. So it's one of the things that I'm looking for. I've got some goals to achieve, but one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is when I step back from the real estate and the auctioneering and I achieve those goals, and then I become a professional investor, because I'm not involved in the industry as much, then I can be more aggressive and do things that I can't because I'm in the industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, if you're going to hire an agent who's a part-time investor as well, you'd have to ask yourself, well, are they giving me the best deals? Well, no.
They'll do it for themselves if they can.
They're doing it themselves. So why would you hire them?
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, at least if they are in the game, they know what people are after, I guess. They're very good.
It's important. Well, that was always my personal take on it. Now, obviously the best deals that I've done is buying mortgagee sales through other companies, so I can turn up and go, cool, I'm an auctioneer. I'm in the real estate game, but I'm on an equal playing field. And that, I just had one in Blenheim just recently in Linley that we bought for $250, just sold it for $300. So that was a nice, clean, 50 grand, well tenanted, positive cash flow. That's when I choose to. That's all I will do. Will be turn up to mortgagee auctions.
Yep. No, pretty well my strategy in the last sort of few years also. If I've done anything outside the finding properties for investors, that's what I've done. So. It's nice, clean, and and the disclosure thing. I mean, the good thing is, as an agent, the good for everyone in the game is they have to disclose everything, and it's if you don't, you get in the shit. So it's good for everyone. Everyone's winning.
Yeah, it is. I'd never hire an agent who was a part-time investor because you're getting the crumbs, and you don't want the crumbs because as your listeners and you know better than I do, Mark, you make your money when you buy. So I suppose my advice to people in buying is they just don't understand the conduct rules of auction. Yep. And I see people every weekend and they consider themselves professional investors. I see mums and dads buying for their kids because they think they know what they're doing and they just don't understand it like they should.
Right.
And I walk away all the time going, because my job is I have to run as per the act. I work for the seller, and all I do is ask for more money. And if someone wants to give me more money, then I'm just doing my job. But man, if people understood the conduct of auction properly, then they would just buy so much better.
So what's your on that? What's your advice to people going in who doesn't have an experience of an auction? I've got some of my best buys at auctions personally.
Yep.
So what would be your advice if a newbie comes in, they're going to an auction for the first time? What should they do?
Right. Well, you have to be Johnny on the spot. So you have to go to as many auctions as you can, because I know even when the market was running really hot here last year for auctions in Auckland, I consistently, probably about 1 in 20, 1 in 25 auctions, I used to walk away going, my God, it sold for that? Because, the agent butchered it. The owner didn't let them put motivation, no one was there, and the owner was ready to sell. Right. So that's where you need to be. So you do your homework and you turn up to auction, so that's a given, right?
Yeah.
The conduct of rules. Number one is you can ask for a variation, which you know very well about.
Yep.
So why not ask for a 5% deposit? Why not ask for a delayed settlement? Why not ask for access prior to settling? You may as well ask. Now, if the owner says no, well, you've got nothing to lose, but ask. Ask for terms that are better for you as a buyer that you will save money on. And I just don't see people doing that enough.
Just for people that don't understand that or what have you, is when you come up to an auction, you can have a predisclosure, what do they call it? Sorry, Aaron, the pre-auction.
Yeah, and a side letter, it's just or a variation to contract.
Yeah, and then what you can do, you can go in and you can ask, whatever you want. I mean, you might want a long settlement for whatever reason, or short settlement for whatever reason. It's different than the terms of the auction. So you can go in and have a side agreement. Then they know if you win the auction, that's the deal. So yeah, it's a great thing to do, and done it many times. And people should do it if it's for a reason. You don't do it for the hell of it.
Well, but why not ask for better terms? I asked for 5% deposit. So, and if it settles in 3 months, well, you've got, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 50 grand in your bank account, which will save you several $100s. Have a look at the channel list and go, well, what channels aren't listed? Well, I'd love the fridge freezer to stay. The washing machine, no problem. The ride-on lawnmower, the shed, well, I'll ask for it. Now, what invariably happens is owners want bidders. So my experience teaches me that more often than not, owners will accept variations. So I'm starting an auction going, okay, 10% deposit, settlement in 4 days, and you're missing this. Or the smart guys come up and say, right, settlement 3 weeks, access 2, we're going to paint it, check, only 5% deposit, and we want this. The owner signs it. So already they're 10, 15 grand ahead of the 8 ball than some other guy they're bidding against. So why wouldn't you ask?
Definitely.
And the other one is, that very few people know, but it's a right that the any property can be withdrawn from sale at any stage. I see buyers sitting there waiting for it to be on the market, and as you and I both know, that if you play games, then you can get caught out. So you always hold the highest bid at an auction.
Yeah.
Because it's within your right to say, well, look, Mr. Auctioneer, I'll give you more money, but withdraw it and sell it to me versus going back out because you're worried that there's 4 other Chinese buyers in the corner. They're going to jump on it once it's on the market. If not, at least you get to know what the seller's reserve is, so you walk home or go back to wherever knowing what your target is. But I just see a lot of buyers, a lot of real estate agents don't actually understand what the conduct of auction means or is, or what the benefits to them are.
So just on that point, to expand on that point then, so it comes to an auction, you have the last bid, the reserve's 400 and you've got it for 380, so it's not going to sell. How long does that buyer have to negotiate that deal before anyone else can jump in?
Very good question, and it all comes down to the words, and that's understanding the different companies. Does the auctioneer say you have the first right to negotiate?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so say it was you, and you hold it at 380. The best operators say, look, you've got one opportunity. You can pay 400 now, yes or no.
Yeah.
You say yes or no, and that's it.
Yeah.
So the first right to purchase, you're not negotiating. I'm just going, do you want to pay it, yes or no?
Yep.
And sometimes it can go back and forth. But when the auction finishes, that's it. Now, if the auctioneer says, ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman here holds the bid at $380,000. Now, under instructions from my seller, I am offering the first right to purchase an acceptable level, same thing, first right to negotiate. Then if I pass the property into you, then you can negotiate exclusively. And the conditional buyers are excluded until that negotiation's at an end. So there are two extremes to that. So you need to know prior to the start of the auction, you should go up and ask the auctioneer what is happening with that right. Is it negotiation? Is it the first right to purchase? So you're very clear. Because quite often I'll pass it into someone, oh, that's great, I can negotiate. No, I told you what you can buy it for. You've said no, so that right is finished.
Yep.
So just be clear with the auctioneer prior to the start of the auction.
Yeah, that's great advice just to get, just make that clear because there's quite a distinction. I've only been called out once in the last couple of years, all the auctions we've bid at, and that sort of happened where, I could have brought it right there and then in the auction, so it was my fault. I had the choice of buying it, and then I didn't, and then once it had finished, it basically was open up to everyone, and I hadn't established before the auction what the terms were. So I should have just brought it. It was a good price anyway, and so I missed out on the bloody thing.
Isn't it funny sometimes, Mark? The more I bought an apartment the other day, and I could have bought it privately at $485, and I thought no, I tried to get another $5,000 cheaper, and then I had to go to auction and pay $495.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. But anyway, look, isn't it kind of
human nature?
Celebrating your failures. It's liberating.
I'd like to thank Aaron for his time today. It has been a great chat, and we look forward to more next week, where he will give us more great tips on life in general and further tips in your property investing. If you have any topics or anyone you would like to interview, please let us know. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope you have an outstanding day.